chief foreign editor Rob Parsons is at the square in Tel Aviv, where families, friends, and other supporters of those hostages in Gaza have been gathering for weeks. We can cross to him now. Rob, what's the mood like there this Saturday? What have you been hearing from people?
Well, the mood is varied, of course, but by and large, I would say that it's pretty determined. Most of the people I've spoken to seem more or less to trust the Israeli government to get it right in their approach to seeking the release of the hostages. Some people have a preference for taking the negotiations route. Others put their trust more in the Israeli Defense Forces and say that's the only way to get the hostages released, to get Hamas to talk about getting a hostages release. But more people are concentrated on here at this square, which has been the sort of center of a spontaneous movement for support of the families, friends and so on of the hostages, and others too, who are traumatized by what happened on October the 7th. And you can see behind me here this long table with a place laid for every hostage still remaining in captivity in Gaza for when they come back. But this is a place as much of a psychological support for the victims, the families, for ordinary people, as I said, who are traumatized by it. There are psychologists here, there are doctors helping people to cope. But it's a point where everybody can come to gather together, to express their sympathy for each other.
And Rob, Israel has continued bombing Gaza. What's the latest that you can tell us about the fighting going on there?
Well, despite that United Nations Security Council attempt to get a resolution passed yesterday, the situation on the ground in Gaza is pretty much unchanged. The Israeli Defense Forces are pressing both in the north and increasingly in the south. Khan Yunis, the main town in the south, before the war started, about 400,000 people lived there, now over 1 million after the evacuation of people from the north. What we know is that the Israelis are pushing into Khan Yunis now. There's house-to-house fighting, as they put it, shaft-to-shaft fighting, talking about the tunnels that have been dug by Hamas in Khan Yunis. Israeli tanks, Israeli armor is placed to the north and to the east of Khan Yunis. They're trying to persuade the population, the civilian population, to move to safer areas around Rafah and Al-Mawisa on the coast. Most people seem to be heeding that advice, although there's a lot of confusion about what to do. The UN General Secretary Antonio Guterres said it's like pinball sometimes, with people being told first to go one direction and then another, leaving a state of confusion. But there's no doubt about one thing, and that is that for the time being, the Israelis are absolutely determined to press this ground offensive. There's been some talk today by the Israelis that they may be thinking 6 weeks should do it, but they're going to come under an awful lot of pressure from the international community to end it sooner than that.